Welcome to the Left Library, where we simplify political philosophy, political economy, and political science. Today we explore on the Reproduction of Capital by Louis Althusser, a key text in understanding how capitalist societies maintain their structures. The school teaches no how, but in forms which ensure subjection to the ruling ideology. Page 89. Introduction to Althusser and the Reproduction of Capital. Louis Althusser was a French Marxist philosopher whose work aimed to explain how capitalist societies perpetuate themselves across generations. On the Reproduction of Capital, Althusser explores how the conditions necessary for the functioning of capitalism are reproduced, ensuring its continuity. Althusser's text focuses on the structures and mechanisms that perpetuate capitalist relations of production. He argues that for capitalism to survive, it must reproduce not only its economic base, but also the social relations and ideologies that support and maintain it. Marx and Lenin's conception of the state. Before diving into Althusser's ISA, let's briefly revisit Marx and Lenin's conception of the state. For Marx, the state is a tool used by the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, to maintain its dominance over the working class, the proletariat. Marx famously stated, "The executive of the modern state is but a committee for managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeoisie." The Communist Manifesto, 1848. Lenin, building on Marx, argued that the state serves to suppress the working class and uphold capitalist interests. In The State and Revolution, 1917, Lenin emphasized that the state is a product and a manifestation of the irreconcilability of class antagonisms. P7. For Lenin, the state is an instrument of class rule, and that a proletarian revolution must dismantle the bourgeois state apparatus to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat, a government of the working class. Althusser's ideological state apparatus. Althusser takes these concepts further by distinguishing between the repressive state apparatus, or RSA, and the ideological state apparatus, or ISA. The RSA includes institutions like the police, military, and judiciary that enforce order through repression and violence. In contrast, the ISA consists of institutions that maintain capitalist ideology and ensure consent, such as schools, churches, media, and family. The role of ideology. Althusser argues that ideology is a material force. It isn't just a set of ideas, but is embedded in practices and institutions that shape our everyday experiences. Ideology interpellates individuals, meaning it hails or calls upon them to recognize themselves as subjects within a specific ideological framework. For example, schools teach more than just reading and writing. They instill values like obedience, punctuality, and respect for authority, traits that are essential for functioning within a capitalist system. Althusser explains the school teaches know how, but in forms which ensure subjection to the ruling ideology. P89. Influence on everyday life. Understanding the ISA helps us see how the state apparatus influences our everyday lives. From the moment we're born, we're subjected to various ISAs that shape our identities and roles in society. Family structures instill early values and norms. Education systems prepare us for the labor market. Media perpetuates consumerist culture, and religious institutions reinforce moral codes that align with capitalist values. By shaping our beliefs and practices, the ISA ensures that we internalize the ideology of the ruling class. often subconsciously, so without realizing it. Reproduction of labor power. Althusser also delves into the concept of reproducing labor power. For capitalism to function, it must constantly reproduce not just commodities, but the labor power necessary to produce those commodities. This involves both the biological reproduction of workers and their social reproduction through education and training. He writes, "The reproduction of labor power requires not only a reproduction of its skills, but also, at the same time, a reproduction of its submission to the rules of the established order." Ps 133. This process ensures that each generation of workers is prepared to take its place in the capitalist system, maintaining the cycle of exploitation and production. Lenin and the revolutionary state. Althusser's analysis also sheds light on Lenin's revolutionary ideas. Lenin argued that the working class must smash the bourgeois state apparatus and replace it with a proletarian state. Althusser's ISA concept suggests that this revolutionary state must not only dismantle the RSA, but also transform the ISAs to create a new socialist ideology. The challenges of transforming ISAs. Transforming ISAs is a monumental task. These institutions are deeply entrenched and resist change. For a socialist state to succeed, it must build new institutions that promote socialist values and practices. This involves re-educating the populace, restructuring educational systems, and creating media that disseminate revolutionary ideals. One of Althusser's key points is that ideology is not merely a set of ideas, but is materialized through practices. He explains that ideological practices involve rituals and behaviors that individuals engage in, which reinforce the dominant ideology. For instance, daily activities such as going to work, attending school, and participating in religious ceremonies all contribute to the perpetuation of capitalist ideology. He states, "Ideology represents the imaginary relationship of individuals to their real conditions of existence." The function of vices in capitalist society. Althusser emphasizes that ISAs are essential for maintaining the stability of capitalist societies. They work by ensuring that individuals internalize the values and norms of capitalism, which helps to reproduce the labor force and the relations of production. This internalization process is so effective that it often operates without the need for overt coercion. Education as an ISA. Althusser places significant emphasis on the educational system as a primary ISA. Schools are not just places of learning, but are crucial in shaping individuals' ideological outlooks. They prepare students to fit into the capitalist workforce by instilling the necessary skills and attitudes. He explains the school, but also other state institutions like the church, or other apparatuses like the family, teaches know-how, but informs, which ensures subjection to the ruling ideology. Media and communication as ISAs. The media and communication industries are also powerful ISAs. They shape public opinion and disseminate the dominant ideology. Through news, entertainment, and advertising, media outlets reinforce capitalist values such as consumerism, competition, and individualism. Althusser notes the communications apparatus, press, radio, and television is an indispensable part of the ideological state apparatuses. Religious institutions as ideological state apparatuses. Religious institutions historically played a significant role in legitimating the social order. Even in secular societies, religious ideologies often underpin cultural norms and values. Religious institutions can reinforce submissive attitudes and acceptance of social hierarchies. He writes, "The Church is indeed an ideological state apparatus, and one of the most significant ones. The state's dual role, repressive state apparatus and ideological state apparatus." Althusser distinguishes between the repressive state apparatus and the ideological state apparatus, but acknowledges that both are essential for the functioning of the state. The repressive state apparatus uses force to maintain order, while the ideological state apparatus uses ideology to shape consent. He states, "The state apparatus, which defines the state as a force of repressive execution and intervention in the interest of the ruling classes, in the class struggle conducted by the bourgeoisie and its allies against the proletariat." Revolutionary implications. Althusser's analysis has significant revolutionary implications. He argues that a successful revolution must address both the RSA and the ISA. It is not enough to seize state power. The ideological structures that support capitalism must also be transformed. He explains the class struggle extends to the ideological level, to the ideological state apparatuses, to the reproduction of the relations of production, building new socialist ISAs. For a socialist revolution to succeed, it must create new ISAs that promote socialist values and practices. This involves rethinking education, media, family structures, and other institutions to foster a collective, egalitarian, and cooperative society. Althusser writes, "The proletariat must develop its own ideological state apparatuses to replace those of the bourgeoisie." In conclusion, On the Reproduction of Capital by Louis Althusser provides a critical extension of Marxist theory, explaining how capitalist societies perpetuate themselves through both repressive and ideological means. By understanding the ideological state apparatus, we can see how our beliefs and behaviors are shaped to sustain the capitalist system. Althusser's insights challenge us to recognize the subtle mechanisms of control in our lives and to envision revolutionary changes that address not just the overt structures of power, but the underlying ideologies that sustain them. Thank you for watching The Left Library. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more simplified insights into political philosophy, political economy and political science. Let's continue to learn and grow together.